Hello, friends. Brickey here. Welcome to a very special Brickey live stream. We're going to do something tonight. We're going to break down something that I've been kind of predicting for a long time now. And I believe that, there's a lot of things on here that are pretty accurate to what I've been sort of telling everybody for a while. And then there's a couple of also new surprises. So, what we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves the size of these people. We're going to go into this concept artwork. We're going to walk through it. We're going to live in it, and we're going to experience it. And over on my main channel, Hey Brickey, probably next Saturday, after I've had like a week to kind of really process this, we'll do a video that goes into it in more detail. But tonight will be sort of a first reactionary, kind of breaking down the concept artwork. And the next week on the main channel, I will, or maybe I think next Saturday, I will do a in position and kind of let everybody imagine it more, boots on the ground. All right. Let's jump in. Good to see some folks here tonight. JT, Shoshana, Laz, Siegs, Glam Blue Eyes. All right. So let's start here. All right, so in this bottom right-hand corner, we see a very figurative illustration of looking over the businesses. Now, if you remember, when I was making my video series, and I'm not trying to be like I told you so, but just to give the context of like the pushback that I've been getting from the Disney community when I was making the Disneyland Forward series, which I can't remember how many Disneyland Forward videos I have over on the main channel, but it's a handful, more than anybody else. And I've really kind of adopted this subject and gone into it deeper. And when there weren't headlines, I just kind of made my own headlines by just seeing the vision and breaking it down. So this right here, this is an important starting point, because the first bone of contention was when Disney dreamt of building a parking garage over on the eastern side of the park. Back then, pre-pandemic, they got an extraordinary amount of pushback from local businesses that felt like Disney was trying to ice out the businesses over on Harbor. Now, it's a little bit debatable. It was like, okay, well, we were here first. We contribute more money to the community than anybody else. So that's one side of the argument. But the other side of the argument is also kind of, hey, we're also residents of Anaheim. We pay our property tax for our fair lot of land, and we're all in this together. And so there was a big pushback, and ultimately it got shut down. But after the pandemic, and Anaheim really felt the burden of having no Disney, things changed, and things changed pretty aggressively. Need me to turn the microphone up? No problem. So things change, and things change pretty aggressively. And the idea was that people were bummed out that they were going to do this right here, what we can see right here. And that is take people over the bridge to basically bypass the street. So you have these businesses all along here. And what's going to be different now is the guests are going to load in on the east, and they're going to come over the top of Harbor. And so what we're looking at up here is a sky bridge that people are going to go across, which then, if people are coming in from this area, will bypass this street and this street altogether. But I would push back if people are already coming in on the east, officially through Disney's transportation, and they're parking at Toy Story, people aren't accessing that area anyways. So I don't know. I can see it from both sides, but no reason to debate whether it's right or it's wrong because this is what's happening. So if we get in here, let's really break down the Sky Bridge. So the Sky Bridge is doing a couple of different things. One, this is one of the things I find pretty interesting, is it's going to be taller than the monorail. And the monorail is going to be a big part of these future projects because the monorail creates a lot of obstacles and problems. So we're actually going to be walking over the monorail, and you better believe I can't wait to already start filming the monorail from above because I've never had that ability before. That's going to be amazing to do that. So let's look at it here. So we have a concrete retainer wall, and it looks like they're pretty like figurative in their illustration. So I believe that this is actually the hard right angle, and then the concrete wall comes over here like so. So you have a concrete wall that's on the edge. Then to create the vibes, you have what appears to be a garden way, which is this right here. And so what that garden way is going to do on the other side of that concrete wall is it's going to, one, make harbor disappear so you won't see it. And it's also going to create a sound barrier. Concrete echoes, obviously automobiles make a lot of noise, but trees act as a giant sound sponge and they will absorb them. Now, what's interesting is if you look right here, and let's go up to, we're at 600%, let's go up to 1200% where it gets kind of gritty. There's this item right here. Kind of just highlight it right there. That's what it looks like at 3200. But this item right here, don't get too crazy excited about it, because anybody that thought maybe this was some sort of transportation system, it's not. It's an awning. So it looks like there will be a awning that will run across the top of the bridge. That's what all these vertical posts that we're looking at is. Once again, we're up to 1600%. So we're really zooming in. But these little posts along the way seem to be supporting an awning and not what many people would hope to be would be some sort of a people mover that would take people into the park. And the reason why I'm pretty sure that it's just an awning is because there is the disruptive hard edge that they went out of their way to show us. And where does that hard edge end? Right before we would get under this canopy. So on a hot summer day, it does appear that you'll be able to go across the Sky Bridge under the awning and remove yourself from the hot California sun. And now where this really gets interesting is, think about this. Obviously, when we get onto the parking garage, Federalist, thank you so much, bud. I appreciate you. Thanks for supporting the content and being on this journey with me for quite some time. So obviously, this is going to be the plan for the parking garage. Think of the parking garage like this. Give me 1 second. We're doing this live. Okay. So think of the parking garage this way. This is the best way I can explain the parking garage to folks. There we go. Okay. So on the bottom level of the parking garage, we'll say that this is the ground level, right? The ground level will probably be over accentuated. So it will be more than one floor, because on the bottom level of the parking garage, the way I envision it is this will be where buses and all the transportation happens. So you'll come into the bottom of the parking garage. It'll be super high, and that will be where all that heavy lifting takes place. But what's interesting, we'll get to that in a minute. So parking will probably start, which would be maybe on like a third floor. So you'd have standard levels of parking that everybody's parking their cars on. But this is where this gets interesting, because if this bottom box that I'm making right here, if this right here is the transportation area, right? This is where everything's loading in. And through here, where we work our way up to the parking garage, if this is where everybody is parking, then to take your guests and to have them park and come down, that doesn't make sense, because you have two main obstacles. You have a road over here, and you have local businesses, the businesses that we just looked over. And also you have all this transportation. So what's going to make this garage different than the ones that we already have at the resort is this garage is going to take you up. And so it will be from the top or one of the top floors, where you will then go on the sky bridge over to the park. That creative problem solving allows them to fill up the garage top down, where when it gets more full, the distance to the parking space is less. So that will be efficient. And it will also give the availability for guests to go up to a top green space and continue that trail over. And the reason why I feel pretty confident about this new prediction of mine is look at the size of the trees on the north side of Harbor. These are pretty substantial trees. These aren't little bushes or whatever. These are pretty substantial trees. And then this wall that they have that is illuminating with lights on it to set the vibe. You're going to be set in between the illuminated wall and the concrete wall with the bushes on it, with the awning going over you. The awning going over you, if it's designed properly, that will also absorb sound, as well as this wall will absorb sound with the tall trees. I think that when you go across the sky bridge, you're going to feel like when you cross over Disneyland Drive in downtown Disney, and your experience will already feel very Disney from the time you get out of your car. And so what they did when they purchased the space back here, let me pull up a Google map. Give me 1 second. And I saw somebody super chatted out of the corner of my eye, and I'll give you a big thank you real soon. One second here. We're doing this live. Hope everybody's having fun tonight. Hope everybody's excited about all of this. I know I am. Okay. Bring the chat back up. BE53. Thanks for all you do. Can't afford monthly right now, but now I can try OC occasionally. I appreciate you, bud. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You don't have to worry about apologizing for not having a subscription. Okay, let's pull this back over here. So, the place where we're talking about where this is going to go is this lot right here. Some of this will become the first step of it, because the announcement says that will only be 6,000 parking lots. The plan was to make something that would be bigger than Disneyland's Mickey and Friends and Pixar Pals. So it looks like they might be building the parking lot in stages. So I'm assuming that it'll probably be this area that I've just highlighted. When they bought this, they already own this stretch of land right here. This stretch of land is the bridge. The bridge will then bring people over into our concept artwork like so. Like this is the area that we're talking about. So the top of those 3 buildings that we see, that is this area right here. Wherever I may roam. What's up, brother? Greetings, Brickey. It's Mark. It's me, Mark. Here is some funds for some Starbucks. I appreciate it. Oh, a little 1313. Appreciate it. Oh, it's Mark. What's up, Mark? Good to see you, bud. Go Raiders. All right. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context of where we're at in this and what we're looking at. Okay. So far we've only gotten this far. Now let's get into this area over here. So if you notice something, this entryway right here, this is going to be a service entrance, because see the way that this wall, once again, we're building another sound wall here because sound is going to be a big part of Disneyland Forward. So let's just start right here on the edge. Okay. So we have a standard curb that comes around. Now the standard curb has a monorail beam, which is probably about 15 to 20 feet. And it has a tree here. And this tree, I'm assuming, is probably somewhere in the ballpark of 25, 30 feet. But if you notice something where this retainer wall starts, it gets bigger as it goes around. So this retainer wall is once again locking in the vibes, working on sound. And you can see that this path continues on the back side of the monorail. So I believe it also comes over into here. So I think that maybe this will still be the emergency helicopter pad in case there's a medical evac that they have to do. And it could be possible that there could still be like an employee shuttle or some sort of shuttle service that happens back here. But I don't believe that this path that I've just illustrated will be a part of the guest relationships. And I'll tell you why this is exciting. Because if the only bus system that we're seeing that is going into the park is this little small emergency path that, you know, could be for like an emergency lane for like an ambulance to go get gas off of a helicopter pad or a cast shuttle. That means we are going to be getting a lot more theme park space, and that this is going to, all the Eastern Gateway stuff is going to be what I broke down with the illustration of how it's going to be on the base level of the parking garage. So that's what I perceive that to be. Okay. So we've now officially broken down in this very, very detailed academic concept artwork that we're doing. We've broken down what this is right here. We have explained. Oh, sorry. We've broken down this right here. What button am I hitting that's doing that? Sorry. There we go. I'm a little tired. I had a long day today. Lots of meetings. Did a presentation at Mattel. Okay. So we're breaking down. We've already broken down the sky bridge here. And we've explained what we believe this section in here is that extends over into here. So if you're just joining us, this is how much of it that we've already kind of gotten into. So we've just basically taken out this bottom little cluster of kind of some of the more techie stuff, which, you know, of course I'm going to start there because that's the stuff that I love the most. Construction on all this stuff is supposed to begin in 2026, to give you a guideline. All right, so now let's get into our new main entryway. So our main entryway will start in this area over here. Okay, so we have a big wide berth for people to kind of come in. Now, we showed how people will go across the bridge. Let's study this little icon here in the center of it. So you have people that are on the sky bridge that just walked over from the parking garage. It appears that they have a couple of different options. Let's break down option number one. If you look, there is in here, there is a pad, which appears to be one level lower than our bridge, which is why I spent the time showing the concrete retainer wall that's on the edge of it. So one would think that somewhere under this circle piece that we have, this thing right here, somewhere in here will be where some guests can decide that they want to go down. I'm sure there will also be an elevator, so they're not going to leave people hanging that have a hard time walking. But it does appear that at some point, if you want, you can go around this stairwell, and then that would give you the opportunity to come over here and to meet these folks. And these folks have all just come in off the street. So that is one way that this can work. But if you look, the other way this could work is that the bridge goes behind the sign and it slowly tapers down, and it will bring you into the Esplanade proper. So you will be able to, from exiting Disneyland, you'll be able to come over here and exit the park, and you will be able to walk over and just slowly do this long stroll up, and that will take you right back over to where your car is parked in the new parking lot. And before you complain about how long of a walk it is not that far whatsoever. I'm going to measure it on Google Maps for you right now. Measure a distance. It's about 1,800 feet. It'd be the same distance. It'd be further. It'd be about the same distance as walking from Space Mountain to the front gate of the park. So not a crazy stretch when you think about how much we walk at Disneyland. This is 100% real concept artwork. This was just released by Disney this evening. Okay, let's keep digging in because we're just scratching the surface here. And by the way, if you join us late, you can always go back and watch the beginning of this. I'm not doing a lot of like hanging out, reacting to everything in chat. I will do that later on and take your feedback. But I wanted to make sure that if anybody clicked play on this, they could just jump in and get the breakdown and not be burdened with a bunch of like small talk. Small talk will come later. All right. So we have this structure right here, which I'm assuming has an elevator in it. It has the two different ways to get down. And then we have this second structure here, this circle area, which I'm assuming this is security for people that are coming in off the street. This will be a security checkpoint for people coming off the street. I think that people that are in the parking garage have already done security over at the parking garage. That would make the most amount of sense. And so there'll probably be some sort of way that will stop people from... Well, let me think about that. That does create some problems on people walking. But I guess if you're exiting out, if there's an exit path or whatever, they'll be able to figure that out. I mean, I'm sure they've already figured it out. I'm just trying to figure it out. But what's going to be interesting here is the height of the bridge has this new Disneyland sign on it, which is similar to the Disneyland sign we don't have. And if you think about it right now, Disneyland doesn't really have a sign, a famous sign anymore. It has the kind of the weird ones that it has left over from like the 90s and the blue stuff, but it doesn't really have a signature sign. So this will be the signature sign, and it will be very high up in the air because, once again, we just passed over the monorail right here. And this, you know, obviously we're losing grade because we have people walking by. But we also have this structure, which appears to maybe be a 3-4 story structure. And then you have this thing over here, which, you know, obviously people are cruising through this. So if this is any close to scale, that sign's going to be pretty big and it's going to be pretty high up in the air. And I believe it's going to look awesome. So much better than what we have now. So as people are loading in, you can see we have a retainer wall on this side. And then we have on the other side of the retainer wall, that's going to manage sound, that's going to manage sight lines. We have what looks to be a service road. And then we have these trees that are planted on both sides of the service road. This tree right here, this tree is planted on the guest facing side. And this tree right here, this is placed on the service road side. But as you walk through here, your sight lines will just be trees, and it looks like a kind of an organic wall that has growth over it. So your sight line will just be, oh, I'm just kind of walking through this nice little, you know, urban park area that will lead me up to a security checkpoint, which will then drop me off into here. So this is where it starts to get pretty interesting because we have a structure right here that they conveniently put behind these trees. And I cannot imagine that this would be the security, but it is possible because if you notice, there are lanes. Lane 1 is right here. Lane 2. And these little indications right here, these kind of look like little different spots. And it does appear if we go super in, it just gets kind of vague. So question number 1 is this security? Or is this security? And it really gets interesting because if people are coming in through here and they have to go through security, I mean, it does make sense. Let's break down this scenario in a more detailed way. So if you're coming in on foot, you pass through here and you go through this security, and then that allows you to walk over here like so. Okay? And at the same time, you'd have a second batch of people that are cruising in like this. This might be the way that it does it because if you look at it, the merge point would be right there. Your merge point would be right here. Where the pink path would be people that are walking over from the garage. And your yellow path, sorry, that's probably like very hard for you to watch. Then your yellow path would be people that are coming in and off from a street level. And because of this, the number one reason why people say they'll never be able to do this, they can't push everybody over the top of Harbor. They're not. They're giving you 2 different ways to come in the park. If you're staying on one of the Good Neighbor hotels over on Harbor, or if you went over to McDude's to get lunch, you can go in on this yellow path. If you parked at the parking garage, you can come in on the pink path. So what this does is this allows them to kind of solve all the problems that got this denied the first time. So the more I think about it, the more I do feel that this longer bridge back here, or structure that I've just highlighted in blue, I do feel like that this is probably security. But it does get weird about this little structure right here. Because if these guests on the bridge have already been through security, then what's the relationship with this? So I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see. They've definitely given themselves a lot of different options. And if you think about it, sometimes when you park at Toy Story, security's at Toy Story. And sometimes when you park at Toy Story, they just put you on the bus and they take you to the park, and then you have to go through security at the park. So it does seem like they like to have a little bit of flexibility. All right. Let's move over into this little chunk right back in here. So this little chunk right here that I've just highlighted in blue, this is currently where all the buses are coming and going. That's where everybody is coming and going, doing everything that they're doing. And this is going to be the future home of Avatar. It was announced tonight that they finally decided that this is going to be the spot. So it does appear that this thing that we're seeing right here, this is the back edge of a Avatar show building. And then this is the access road to get around. Now, as far as the monorail goes, they didn't give us any indication because this is the way that the monorail runs today. And realistically, the monorail sorry, I just lost my page here. And the monorail would be like where, if you can see where my cursor is, the monorail turn isn't till like way over here. So we're not going to have an indication on the monorail's relationship with Avatar. I did do a video breaking down some ways that they could do that, where they could cover it with Rockworks. If you go over to the main channel and you go to my Disneyland Forward playlist, I've already kind of broken down how that could work. Stu asked, this is probably a stupid question, but why is the D in the Disneyland sign traditionally yellow background while the other have a white background? Any symbolism behind it? Yes. The reason why the D is accented away from Disneyland is because it puts an emphasis on the word Disney. And subconsciously, when they put a focus on the D in the main logo, it gives them the availability. When they just put the D on merchandise, your brain is already trained to see that as an abbreviation and as a symbol. So it is a very sophisticated, like long-term play on branding and customer awareness. It's pretty masterful. Okay. So let's break this down in a little bit greater detail. So this area right here that I've just highlighted, where Avatar is going to go, let me pull up a Google map for you to make this make a little bit more sense. Hold on, I can't draw on that map. I'm just going to take a screenshot and put it into Photoshop so we can draw on the map. And like literally any question that you have, anything that you're unsure of, if you go over to my main channel, Hey Brickey, and you look through my playlist about Disneyland Forward, I have answered any question that I'm sure you could come up with. Because I've been making videos about this, you know, maybe making a video every other month or so for a couple of years now about this topic. hate that they put these sponsorship. There's like some sponsorships on the map that you just cannot turn off. Like, so we're just going to have to look at an ad for Cold Stone Creamery, which is just bullshit. Okay. All right. So for those of you that are a little bit confused on the Monsters Inc. thing, I'm going to draw exactly what they're giving up for Monsters Inc. So right here, this blue line that I just put in, actually, let's go over to yellow. It'll be easier to see. And on this busy map, let's increase our stroke. Let's go to 25. All right. So currently we have this right here. This is the security tent. And this is the bus drop off. Monorail runs like so. So this is Mike and Sully right here. So that's where that is. This is one of the studio buildings. This is one of the studio buildings where they used to have Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Here is another one of the studio buildings. And for frame of reference, there's another one. So, shit. Did it make a new layer? So this area right here, it appears from the map that we're looking at about this much. If I had to guess, about this much of it is going to become Avatar. Like somewhere in that ballpark of space is going to become that land to make it look the way that it needs to look. So that gives you an idea of that scale. Okay. And that will be in this new concept art we're looking at. That would be back in this area right here. The buses are going to, I covered this already. I've covered this in other videos. I've covered this tonight. The buses will be dropping off everybody across the street. There's no more buses on this side. They don't need to. It'll all happen in the parking garage. If you're confused about that, when we're done, you can go back and watch the beginning of the video. I do it in great detail. I don't want this to become super repetitive for people that are watching it the whole way through because it is a very deep dive. So this area right over here, this is the way that the monorail still runs today. 15. This is the monorail path as we know it, so that's not really changing. This is the monorail that has just left Tomorrowland. Or no, actually, that's the monorail that is going into Tomorrowland. That's the one that has just left the hotel, sorry. And then the monorail path on the way back. This is the one that's just left. It now goes under this bridge, which I'm super excited about. And it is on its way to somehow pierce through Avatar. So that's, as far as we know, that's going to basically stay the same. But this is where this artwork gets kind of interesting. Now that we've broken down all the entry points. If you look over at the Esplanade, there are no more ticket booths anywhere that we can see. There's just patches of green, little parklets everywhere. Those appear to be gone. I've already explained the giant wall. Any questions you have with this stuff over here, I have already answered at the beginning of the live stream. So I don't want it to be too repetitive, but I've already answered why the giant wall is over there. All right, let's move forward. It's the only bad thing about live streams is like everybody jumps in them at a different moment. And it's like, I don't want to be repetitive and bore people, but I also don't want to leave people hanging. So this is the front gates of the park. Very, very abstract. So we can't really put too much weight into this. But when we look over here, we can realize that they're going to make the Esplanade feel way more park-like. And they've taken out a lot of the buildings. Now over here, we see where Indiana Jones is. That's pretty accurate. So this is the Main Street Town Square area. That all looks, figurative, but it's pretty accurate. Figurative and accurate. We're now looking over the back of Space Mountain, which is pretty cool. But my question for you is, what is this? Huh? What Easter egg is that? Is that just a really, really lazy illustration of the Astro Orbiter? Or is that an indication of something new to come? Because this still has the same shape as what's in Tomorrowland right now. This edge right here, this is the original buildings. This still has the shape of like Star Tours. And this still has the general shape of Buzz. Still a general shape. We see the Matterhorn there. This looks to still be Carousel of Progress. Everything's pretty much spot on. You see this, which at first I got excited and I thought that this was maybe some sort of like tunnel into a land. But I don't think that it is. I think that's just the muddy painting of the monorail bypass when the monorails come back from It's a Small World. So everything's pretty accurate. It's just figurative. It's loose. But what is this? It could just be a really, really lazy Astro Orbiter, but it could be something else. Because Astro Orbiter doesn't have that shape whatsoever. And they did a good job of keeping everything else, looking pretty much the way that it is, even though it's really loose. But I don't know. That was the one thing that when I really zoomed in and looked at it before I went live, I'm like, what is that? Interesting. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see it all come together. I think that grand entryway of the sign is going to be awesome. I think that the walk is going to be way shorter than what most people think that it is. I think that if they do it right, the grade will be subtle and it won't be bad. It makes the local vendors happy because people can still get over there and do stuff with local vendors, but people can still also bypass it and get over the top. Like, I think it's a really nice compromise of what people criticize them for. And it's doing something different. And there's also another little casual thing that if you notice here, there's a bit of a theme. I'm trying to get a good view of this so it's not. But let's go to 150. Okay. So there's a cool little visual theme here that I don't know if you've picked up on. So there's this band right here. This is like a band of color, right? You see the yellow color, the warm magenta over here, and you have the warm magenta over here. And then the backstage buildings, they also have sort of duplicated that. So there's this like flowing kind of energy and lights in the Disneyland sign. The two circle things will be kind of reflective of light. So there is going to kind of be this kind of like ribbon that's kind of like flowing through it all. And I really, really like that. I'm super excited to see how that ribbon type vibe comes together. And if all of these are synced together and they're like, they're all like, magenta, and then they work their way over to, cyan, and then like a yellow, and they just kind of like roll by. That could be really, really awesome. It could be awesome. But yeah, this little thing right here, it's like you can't see Astro Orbiter really from the outside of the park. I don't know why they went so out of their way to put this little spike right here. I'm really fascinated if that's an Easter egg or just like the artwork just got kind of loose and unintentional. All right. So that is a complete 35-minute breakdown, or more like how long have I been live? That's a 45-minute breakdown of the concept artwork. If you're watching the replay, I have painfully ignored a lot of my friends. I'm going to now talk to them for a little bit, and then we're going to jump into the next concept artwork. So if you don't want to hear me talk to people when I'm not live, scoot on up then the thing, and you can see us break down the next concept artwork. But I do need to say hi to folks. But I've tried to make this as rewatchable as possible. All right. California Dad, do you think the lights will change based on the season or the holiday? Absolutely. I think those lights will change with the music. I think there'll be mood. I think they'll just kind of like constantly kind of like flicker between, or not flicker, that would be a bad word, but I think that they will constantly just sort of like gradiate between different views and different sounds. Wolftress, hey Brickey, I'm loving all your content lately. So happy for your success. Thank you. I appreciate that. The People Mover track station. No, that's a great, let's break this theory down real quick. I can dispel this theory real quick, but I like where your head's at. So the People Mover in this illustration, load station, which I like where your head's at, that would be here. Because if Star Tours is here and Buzz is here and Carousel is here, that puts the loading station here. So this is definitely in the Astro Orbiter because it is over from the castle and it is behind El Matterhorn. So yeah, I like where your head's at, but no. Kanan. The Sky Bridge rerouting guests away from businesses on Harbor Boulevard. Exactly like the plot of Cars. Mark says, okay, first, what is your initial thoughts of Avatar going into the corner of DCA? I'm excited with it. I've wanted it to go there. I'm really excited with it. I hate that corner of DCA. I think it's going to bring so many vibes to DCA. It's going to create a lot of problem solving they have to do. I'm excited about it. That was my first pick. They're not going to mess with the Disneyland Railroad. That stays forever. Moody Cat, us current people appreciate you making the future people happy. Jen's excited. That's great. No, it is not a new monorail line. That is the same monorail line. We already broke that down. You can go back if you need more information about that. Thanks, Rochelle. I'm glad you enjoyed the breakdown. No, I've Blue Tarp. Blue Tarp says, is the road entrance under the monorail going up below underground? I thought that same thing. My God, I got too many screens. I got too much stuff going on. I thought that too. And I broke down why it's not, but I can do that real quick because I can see that taper does look kind of, so this road right here does not go below ground because it loops over here. And then it goes on this straightaway right here. And then it appears that it comes over here. And as I showed, this is, I believe, going to be still the emergency helicopter pad that exists. A little turnaround right here. So essentially, if there's a guest that got really like in dire straits, they could medevac them over here. And then if needed, like an ambulance or whatever can come in here and do the spin around and get in. It does taper, but I believe that it's the perspective that this is drawn at, which is a really wild perspective. This is like This is a this is a fantasy perspective. This is not like a true perspective. Christine, you don't have to worry about popping in earlier. You can just watch it. That's what it'll be up there for you to check out. Why would there be no more trams in the old parking lot, Slash? The trams are on the other side of the park. I don't understand. The trams have nothing to do with any of this. The trams exist over on the west, and this is all on the east. All right. Let's hop over to our next piece of concept artwork. We're going to go to the East Coast for a minute. So and then we'll go back to the West Coast and look at the two new pieces of concept artwork we got for the West Coast. So I was one of the few people that was pro ripping the rivers of America out of Magic Kingdom. I booked a flight out to Walt Disney World days after D23 because I wanted to be one of the first people, boots on the ground. I wanted to go to the locations of whatever they announced, and I wanted to do content standing right there saying this is what's going to happen. And as the designer in the community, this is the perspective that I see. You know, and I went to Rivers of America at Magic Kingdom. I'm like, oh, they've let it go to trash. And if they're not going to take care of it, get rid of it. Also, it's the world's busiest theme park. It's a massive amount of land, and it wasn't carrying its weight. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think it's beautiful, and that doesn't mean I don't like the vibes. I could just, from a business perspective and from a designer's perspective, I could see logistically why they would have to remove it. Now, before you get upset, they are not taking the river out of Disneyland. It's not happening. I'm not saying the boats will always go around the island. They might become stationary at some point. There's been plans to do that in the past, and they're not bad plans. But that's a different video for a different time and something that I might be doing for Hey Brickey. But as we look at this concept artwork, it's obvious there's a lot of water, but there's also a lot of story and a lot of, I think, what Magic Kingdom could use. And as somebody who lives on the West Coast that is fortunate enough to go to Disneyland quite often, a lot of times when I go out east, like I like going to the Magic Kingdom. It's got, great vibes, but it doesn't really have a lot of stuff that we don't have. Obviously I ride the People Mover, and I love doing laps around. I love hanging out in Liberty Square and all the things we don't have. But it'll be really cool for it to have an exclusive attraction. So let's make ourselves the size of this attraction and let's walk through it. So we just got to the Magic Kingdom. We just started our day. And we'll walk through Liberty Square. We want to come over and see the new Cars Land. I should go to magenta for this one because of its color palette. Okay. All right, so this building right here that we see, this is the area where we get onto the Liberty Bell. So that building is stand. So that'll be like a fun fact. Did you know you used to be able to get on a boat? They are not keeping the boat there. So let's hike around a little bit. So over to our right, we'll have Liberty Square and that, old settlers version of America where every building, if you look at the address on any of the buildings on Liberty Square, their address is the year. So it basically added an 18 to it. And that's the year that type of architecture would have been built. So it's a little cool. So we have a tree line on the front of us. But then if we look behind the trees, we have a rock wall behind it. So they're keeping people separated, from Haunted Mansion and all that over there as best as they can. And then we come over here and we see a national park sign. And what appears to be looks like some sort of like Kiddieland, like Playland, that kind of vibe. I'm going to assume that this is the entryway. And so when we come over here to this activity area, let's get a little bit closer look at the activity area for the kids. Oh, that breaks it into the grid. So you have a bridge where kids can come over here and go into this, kind of Redwood Trails type area. You also have over here a little water bridge, like the barrel bridge that we have on the island, and that's on the island now. So that's cool that that stays. And I'm just going to assume that this is just kind of a lot like the Redwood Trail area that we have, you know, which is interesting because the original concept artwork showed like a flat spinner ride, and this definitely doesn't show any vehicles. But maybe because they're going with more of a park map, it is a ride, and we can't tell it because it goes against the look that they're establishing. So it does appear that this A-frame, this will be where we load into a Cars ride. But unlike our Cars ride we have here, this will be an off-road one, which is going to be wildly interesting. So I believe through here, you will probably, because they have to have huge queues, it feels like this little town will be where we explore. And if you really look at it, it appears that this path of trees with these little buildings around it, this is probably the loading station. So let's just look at this one more time. You come in here. I'm assuming that you work your way around here. This is loading or unloading. And I'm going to assume that this piece in the center here, there's probably like a character on a turnstile that kind of like talks to you or is adding some sort of like motion. Because at Walt Disney World, with it being the world's busiest theme park, they really have to figure out a way to make big queues and keep people busy while they're in the queues. So as best as I can determine, we will start our journey coming around here. You can see there's a concrete wall around us. And we're already going to like dip underneath this bridge that we just went under. And we're going to go through this tunnel and come out on the other side. That's the way that I see this taking off. Now, if we really look at the clues, there's waterfalls over to the side of us, which is going to keep a lot of the sound absorbed. And right when we come around, so let's look at this close now that we know our direction. So we come around here, we hit a bridge. Bridge is going to feel like, we're going to do this little turn, concrete wall to the side so we don't see the people that are in the queue. They don't see us, but they maybe hear us go by. We go under the bridge and through this little tunnel. So I'm sure there's going to be our first storytelling moment there. And then if you look, we're going to hit these boards and these different planks, which is already going to start to like kind of, you know, make it wobbly. But then there is water that is running to the side of us. So if we're bumping around and we can kind of hear the water, there's already going to be like a really great vibe. And so then the way that I see it, we're going to go through the tunnel, come around here like so. Drive by the big geyser that's splashing up. We're going to come around. And then we're going to go up. And typically on a roller coaster, the up is not a fun part of it. It's like the ching, 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 like waiting for the descent. But I have a feeling because these are electric vehicles can do inertia uphill really, really well. So I have a feeling this is going to kind of feel like an Indiana Jones type moment where you're going to get kind of slung around and all that. And then we're going to enter the first big dark ride. So basically kind of Act 1, I believe, is kind of this little town area, this little metal thing, and then we go inside of this building. So that means that this in here this is a hidden show building. There will be some sort of activity, some sort of setup to the story that we will go through from the time that we go from this tunnel right here and we pop out over here. And it could be as simple as this, right? Like it just could be that. Or because there's lots of running water, it could be a little bit more complicated where we kind of go down, maybe we do a turn, maybe we come around, and then we find our way out. But it could even be more complicated than that. Because it could be the type of thing where we go down, we spin around, we do something over here inside of this, and then we come around again and come out. So there is a lot that could happen right in there. And because of the way that they're designing these vehicles to be off-road and to have tight turning capacity, there could be a lot of like excitement right in that first little storytelling moment. So then we're back outside. We have rock work to our right. Now we have rock work to our left. We're driving along the water. We're feeling all these vibes. We have trees. It's feeling good. There's puddles over here, which means there's probably going to be some sort of splashing. And then as the way I see it, we're going to enter in the building right there. This looks to be a solid wall. Or it could be that we go through this way. Not really sure what exactly this entails. But at some point, we're going to exit down on this lower level. So from coming in on the top to exit on the lower level, and there also appears to be like a winding kind of outside road here. This could be just as simple as this. Could be just as simple as kind of doing this little windy guy, and then you come down here a lower level and you take off. I don't think that's the case though. I believe it's going to be more like you're going to come in here. This is going to be a substantial show building. You're going to do a couple of little spins, going to go to a couple of little things, maybe pop out for a moment and then do a drop and come back around. Like I have a feeling that it's going to be pretty heavy with story in there. And then at some point we will exit on the lower level with all the waterfalls around you when you come out. That'll be like sensory. That'll feel really good. Don't be fooled. This is a higher plane. So we're going to go underground again, where we're going to pop out over here, go over another rickety bridge where we look down at cars that are just going to be like lower to us. Like we can look down at our buds that are down here. Then we're going to come around, kind of catch our breath. And then we hit the finish line. On the backside of the mountain will probably be where you exit. If we cruise over through this park area, there's this little garden. You'll notice the garden is actually partitioned to be like wheels. And we have the waterfall all around us. Great vibe spot. Kids are playing here. And just like a national park, there's the little exit. Something that's interesting too is it appears that some of this details when we're walking over to Big Thunder or crossing the bridge over to Tiana's, that we'll be able to kind of catch the vibe. And, you know, there's this bridge over here that we're going to go across. And so a lot of this water, these geysers, the colored geysers, these are all designed to where we can walk past them. This river is designed to where we can walk past it. This forest is designed to be a walk past point. And then there's still going to be the docks that currently walk along rivers of America. And so just like you enjoy it today, you'll be able to walk along the docks, have the water around you, but you'll just look over and see a national park type area. So Frontierland, because this is the Country Bears building right here. Frontierland will still be preserved in a wooded area. It'll still have water around it. It'll just, when you look over, there'll just be rock work and trees and just look more like a forest. And you'll still be able to come around here, walk around the backside of all of this to do Tiana's, go across that bridge where the return is, come around here, walk along the edge of Big Thunder, and then eventually you'll be able to go this way to a villain's land. I think this is really well done. I'm very excited for this. This is going to be a huge hit. This is going to just be slammed, and I don't see how this isn't a success. All right, let me jump into the chat for a little bit, and then we'll go into our next concept artwork. Let's see. Monsters, Inc. is going to be gone forever. It's going away. But I'll give you something to think about for that in a minute. Dan says, talk about a change in art styles. I mean, I think for this one, I think this is a really interesting art style because it shows them reacting to fans. And they didn't get the reaction that they were hoping for when they announced this. So I think taking it into this like simplified cartoon national parks vibe, it allows them to show people like self-confidence in the project without over showing all the details. So it's pretty good move. I like this style of concept artwork. It is very different, but very on brand. I wish more concept artwork followed the brand of the story they were telling. Yeah, I saw the aerial map that Tom did. It was really cool. Petey, why do you have commercials when you're live? Because it's a job. Aaron asks, how do you get to Haunted Mansion from the photo? That's a great question because I believe Haunted Mansion, if this is where the boat launch is for where you go on Liberty Bell, that puts the Haunted Mansion about right here. So the Haunted Mansion would sit about right here, which means that what you would see from the Haunted Mansion from this perspective that perspective right there would be, you'd see a couple of trails, you'd see some rock work, you'd see some trees, and then up along the ridge you'll see a little bit of this the snow cap mountain, and you'd see, you know, obviously this geyser's like doing a lot of blockage. You'd see these geysers over here, and you'd be able to look over to Tiana's and Big Thunder. So basically when you're on the other side of the mansion, you'll look over and you'll see woods, and then periodically popping above the woods, you'll see lots of different, mountain ranges or peaks like that. So it'll basically look like this. You'll see like a tree line. And then kind of above the tree line, you'll see the snow-capped mountain kind of over here. And you'll see, obviously, like right in front of you, you'll see the peak, that rock work that'll be right in front of you. And then it'll just be like lots of different trees. And then off in the distance, you'll see like, Tiana's kind of chilling over here. You'll see Big Thunder. Kind of over here in the distance. So when you look out, it'll just kind of be this like rolling hill area with like, an entry path here and an entry path here. I don't know. Not ideal, but not the worst thing ever. Just kind of look over and see a bunch of that. I mean, it is more ominous with just like the river next to it and the trees, but I don't know. We'll see how that part turns out. I'm like you, a little bit curious about that. Shoshana says, do you think the new editions will start to really we will start to really get the care? I'm having a hard time reading this. Do you think that with all the new additions that we will start to really get the care day to day that these attractions need? Oh, like the maintenance? Yeah, I would assume so. All right. We have more. Okay. So what we do know is Coco, as predicted, going over onto the Pixar Pier area. Now, what they went out of their way to show us here is it's going to be on the edge of the roller coaster. So the idea of it going through the Pixar Promenade, that's not happening. But they did go out of their way to say that it will largely take place in a backstage area. So what you're looking at right here is the Pixar doors where the parade comes and goes. Let me see here. Let me pull up a Google map. And I'll line this up for you. One second. All right. Let's do this as a full screen takeover. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. A lot of people like myself were curious when I did a video about this. Where would it go? A lot of people were really curious about, like, how would this work? Because everybody believes it's going to go in this back area. Now, I can't draw all over this map because it's not in Photoshop. We're looking at the map live, but you'll see why in a minute. So a lot of people like myself were like, whoa, will you be able to go through the Pixar Promenade entrance? No. Right here is going to be where it's going to go. And I'll show that to you right now. Oh, I nailed it on my first try. So this is right here. This is where it goes. Because that's that. It's that easy. Let's go back over to our Chrome. Oh. That is where it's going to be, because they're specifically showing us that the roller coaster is on the outer left edge. Jim, what's up, bud? Jim, why do they not have the rocks closest to the Haunted Mansion a little darker, brighter, the further you get from the Haunted Mansion? Why not have the rocks closest to the Haunted Mansion a little darker and brighten the further you get from the Haunted Mansion? Well, they're doing it. So the rocks closest to the Haunted Mansion are going to be darker. I'll show you. Just a second. Let me take care of Jim real quick. So the rocks that are closest to the Haunted Mansion is this geyser, which is red, and this is which is red. So those are very intense. Those are going to feel very close to you. But as you look over the skyline, you're going to see these blue rocks with the white caps on them. And then you'll see off into the distance, you'll see this, which is going to be a gray. So that will push everything back further. So darkest closest to you, everything off to the distance will be lighter. And just like in the real world, like the further something gets away from you, the more blue hue goes into it. And if you look, this gray on the side, this is, Jim, I love your question. You're the best, dude. Notice how they specifically made this rockwork that faces the Haunted Mansion. It has a gray hue to it. Notice how the rockwork that faces like Liberty Square, where you're much closer to it, has a more warmth hue to it. They're using this one mountain to make two different views for two different lands. One mountain that feels very far away and one mountain that feels like a rockwork just across the way. And then over here, it has the gray hue to really push that back. And there's probably going to be a balance between this, and this, to where they kind of like all kind of peek around the trees and stuff. But that is a great question. Obviously you do illustration because you know the tricks, my man. All right, so let's go back over to Coco. Thanks for the super chat, Jim. Thanks for the question. I appreciate you, bud. Okay, where are we at here? All right, so this area right here will be the parade doors. They went out of their way to say that it is going to be the parade doors. They went out of their way to say that it's going to largely happen backstage. So this is going to be interesting because if we go back over to the Chrome, I mean, they have lined this up perfectly because this little planter right here is this planter right here. Like it's pretty close. So that means they're going to probably end up doing a boardwalk pizza. Let's go back over to the Google map. So I would think that I'd always hope that Coco would bring along with it like like a Mexican and not Mexican but Spanish inspired area. I mean, I guess it's Mexican, Latino. So that means that this boardwalk, this whole all in here is going to probably get a makeover because I doubt that they would have the boardwalk pizza here and then take you back into Coco and they would leave it recessed to that. So I believe that you could anticipate that this will all kind of get a redo over here. And this ride is so loud right here that's going to be very interesting. So let's go back over to our concept artwork because there's a question is, does this tunnel just like take us straight into the ride or is there a little bit of a village? Because I think it's going to probably take us straight into the ride because if you look over here on the right, it's just it already looks like queue. Like this looks like the return or people that are looking over at it. So I feel like they're going to probably put, like a lot of people right in that area. And that's going to be the way that it's going to go down. So let's go back over to Google Maps and we'll look at this area from above to kind of look at what we got. Okay. So it appears that it's going to happen right here where my cursor is. And then you will probably end up going in through here. But it's really curious because it takes a lot of backstage area and it looks pretty dense back there. So either there's a wild chance that this up here is actually going to be the attraction, which I don't think so because they went out of their way to say it would largely be backstage. So what I believe is I think that this entrance point here might be gone. I think they might end up removing this road right here. And I think that this access point might end up coming over here on this corner or like just turning over here. Or who knows, maybe the access point will just start like over in this area. Because for how much they're showing that it's happening next to the roller coaster, either that grand entryway is up in here and you're falling back like this, but you still don't have a lot of room. And that's kind of an interesting walk to get people over to where there's the sizable amount of area for the attraction. But let me take this into Photoshop. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Okay. Actually, let's just do this. Let's do a new file. Okay, there we go. So if they're to remove this road, now that I can draw on this, let's say they patch this up, right? They just close that access port. That gives them the availability to basically make Coco this. Like however much space they need, they could do this. Which then means that they don't have to use, let me switch over to another color. Which would then mean that they wouldn't have to use all of this for the attraction. So it's kind of a really interesting, thought process of if they bring them in over there and they're willing to get rid of that, that could really change things up big time. Sorry. Accidentally did make a new layer. 1 second. Because, you know, a lot of people like myself had kind of assumed that we were looking at, you know, just this area right through here would be where the attraction would go. And they'd have to kind of move this stuff around. And so you kind of assumed that that was going to be what they were going to do. But in this new scenario, it does appear that if they're willing to get rid of this access road, and maybe they are because they know that with Disneyland Forward at some moment that this won't even need to be a part of what the future plans are. So if they're willing to, you know, maybe do away with some of these buildings or rebuild those buildings, redesign the backstage while they're building the front stage where we get to have the show, and they do it over here, then that could also be very interesting, where the ride stands there. Then they still have their access road to get in. They still can have the things they need. Although one of these is a parade building. So like a parade route inside of a parade route inside of DCA is going to be really interesting. I mean, there's a long shot that, you know, Coco's kind of takes place in a party type of environment. There's a long shot that maybe, who knows, the parade actually starts and goes through the Coco area and comes out like that. I don't think so. But it'll be interesting to see how they work a parade into it. All right. I'm going to hop over to the chat real quick, and then we have one more to break down. But I've been trying to do my best to make this very rewatchable for people, because I know a lot of people are going to be curious about this, and hopefully people care about my opinion. Oswaldo, wouldn't it make sense at Rancho de Loco and Disneyland? Well, it would make sense, but the idea is to get more people over to DCA because Disneyland's so popular. So they're trying to leverage as many people as possible. Yes, we're going to do Avatar next. We're talking about Coco right now. I'm trying to... Yeah, I hope there's a Mexican village in there. I really hope that's a part of it. Well, the first concept artwork they released a couple months ago, if you're talking about for Coco, it's inside of the ride, so it doesn't really pertain to this part of it. So many screens. Jim's Junk. Why can't Disneyland go down and make utilidors? Well, one, underground building in California is really, really tricky. We don't have the same type of water table that they have out in Orlando. And it gets into earthquake stuff like that. So there's not a lot of underground building in California. That's why nobody has basements in California unless your house is built on a sloping hill, and then technically the basement is the first level. So there are few tunnels here and there, but largely they're done with grading and stuff like that. So it does look like there's going to be a little bit of a walk to get to the attraction. But the thing about that walk is that there's not a lot of room, like I don't think they're going to make people walk that far, but who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe they'll just make people just cruise all the way down through here and it'll be like a Mexican street fair. And then eventually you get over to the attraction and they'll leave their access road the way that it is. So who knows? It'll be fascinating to see. There is a play though to just take this out and get people to the attraction first. But you're talking about the distance. I mean, it's not that far. The walking distance of going past Inside Out, Emotional Whirlwind till you get over the roller coaster, it's not that far. So it could be possible. Yeah, I hope so too, Big Mike. I hope that they don't like make it feel really compact and crowded and then it feels like it has an appropriate amount of room. The Indiana Jones, Nathan, is such a long walk and it's so tapering and narrow and dark that it's one of the things that like I have to be in the proper mood to do that. Yeah, Mr. Slash X, it could be one way in or one way out, but also there could be a way where you actually exit Coco from the Pixar Promenade doors. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But now we do know the space. That's confirmed. Construction is supposed to start later this year. So we'll be able to get a guess. When they start tearing down buildings, we'll have a real quick guess on how it's all going to come together. Jim Michael says, if the street fair is themed to the Day of the Dead, I'm here for that. Yeah, it'll be cool. I have a feeling you'll see some of that. Sale says, suddenly I think it's going to be small. I mean, it needs to be a people eater. It's a boat ride. You know, DCA has no boat rides now, and soon they're going to have two. One that's family oriented and one that's adventure oriented. I think it'll, you know, they know the popularity of it. They know what they're working with. I think you'll be surprised that it'll be pretty good. I mean, okay, Rochelle, you have a basement, but they're pretty rare and your house is over 100 years ago. So you're probably well beyond modern zoning laws. I'll just say most people don't have a basement. All right, let's head over to our final piece of concept artwork for this evening. I saved this one for last because there's not really a lot that we can get from it. It's just kind of more of the same. You know, they're definitely keeping with this this ring here. They seem to be very, very excited about the ring. And the ring does something really important. It's a different kind of forced perspective. Like a lot of times people talk about forced perspective on like making something taller. Let me show you the trick that this ring is doing. So there's a vanishing point inside that ring. And that vanishing point extends through everything that you see. And what it's doing is it is creating length. And it is making everything feel like pulled out. So obviously it's going to not be as deep and as dense as they'd want, but it's going to feel far away. And so another little forced perspective trick. I accidentally drew on the artwork. Let me get a new layer going here. So another trick is, see this, how the circle motion is echoed out. So you have this circle motion here combined with this vanishing point. So what they have masterfully done is they have created two different kinds of optical illusion perspective to where it's going to feel pushed back and it's going to feel like it's hugging you. And this is so important. let's break down why each one of these is important. All right, now I'm getting my second win. Okay, so if with the blue line, we're pushing it back further. Why were we pushing it back further? Because we don't have a lot of space. So we want to make things feel back as far as they can because we know that we're in a shallow spot. Now, why the pink lines? Well, those pink lines are going to be great sight lines because think about it. If you're standing like this, you can only see here and here, but you can still look up over the edge. But if you're standing with something like this, what happens when you look up? You're hugged all around. You can't see. So what this indicates to me, I'm going to put in another color to make this even more confusing. There's going to be a show building. It's going to be right here. In fact, she's coming out the door of it. So there's a show building right there. And there's a show building right here. But you won't see their roofs. You won't see any of the details of them. The centrifuge will feel far back, but those walls that are hugging you will block your sight lines. So if you think about it this way, here's the building. There's a giant box right in front of you. And that box goes back, like this. And you're standing right here. Okay? So you can clearly see that. But if I create rock work that comes like this, I wish I had my iPad so I could actually draw better than what I'm doing with the mouse, but you get the vibe. Now when you're down here on the ground, even though you're very close to that building, you can't see it because there's a rip curl that's happening around you. And that's exactly what this is. It's a masterful way to hide everything that is around you. So let's look at another forced perspective trick that they're doing here. So to make the waterfall, because you can't make water smaller, what they're doing is they're making each one of these steps smaller. So the water that drips here is only going to be dropping 6 inches. Then the water, let's do it yellow. Okay. 5. Okay. All right. So the water up here, this little pool, is going to be pretty small. And it's going to drop a little bit, and then it's going to kind of split over and drop a little bit, split over and drop a little bit. And these will just be little drips, right? And some of it might even not be real water. It might just be something on a conveyor belt, like the cotton balls that they do at the current one. But then there's this ridgeway right here, right? Like you kind of don't see the water for a little bit. This pool right here, I guarantee you, is probably different than the pool up at the top. But then here, the water comes down in a couple different spots. And they start making that crack bigger. And then they make the crack bigger again, until eventually it gets really big. I love that somebody airbrushed a rainbow in there to give the hue. So essentially by showing you a drip of water, then a couple of drips of water, then a secondary pool, they're using water that you can't make smaller, but just by moderating how wide its fall is, will make that all feel like it is further back in that forced perspective. So a lot of people always think about, they use forced perspective to make things look taller. And that is what they do, but they also use it to push things in on you, to control your vision. So let's just do a little checkaroo here. Kid looks over everything he sees completely within the realm. He can't look out. If mom looks over, that's what mom sees. Kid looking over here at the waterfall, completely submerged. Mom, submerged. Family over here, we don't need to do all of them, but their view line is this. She just got done riding the ride. Holy shit, that was great. She sees this. Like everybody that they have is fully engrossed in the area. Boo, 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 boo. Lasers. How do they work? All right. So here we see, the typical avatar, like braided rope, the beads, everything that makes it look, kind of new age, but also, otherworldly. We see that sort of like the sort of tribal aspect of it that we enjoy that creates these different patterns over here on the rope bridge, right? We see this like kind of exotic, fictional, almost like a peacock with the rainbow and then the feathers at the end of it. So, somewhere between like plant and animal. We see some of the floating rock work stuff with this little nest of birds on it. But if you look at this is doing something very interesting. It is going to be, so here's how this thing will work architecturally. This will be a steel reinforced area, and then its support beams will be hidden inside of these vines. And then that will be hard attached to a steel beam that exists over here. So it looks like it's floating, but it's all perfectly done. And I'm assuming that in here will be some sort of animatronic motorized stuff to make these guys move around and flap their wings and feel alive. And then we have another one of these that's kind of protruding out of the rock wall. And then if you look in there, the way to make this feel floating, again, the way that this will work is there will be a steel beam that goes through here. Like so, like so, like so. And that'll all be done to make things look floating and kind of coming out at you. So we see her walking across the bridge. We see a little cave portal there. As we come over, we see some other folks where the water falls. We see gang on the boat there that's going out on the journey. And then we see more sort of these peacock style plants. Floating rock. I'm assuming that this floating rock, like that its base support is somewhere here to go like that. So it'll probably be hidden behind the plants. Do some tree work here. Make this one really dark and really intense. See all the plant life and then make these like sort of suggestive so they feel further back. Again, we can see all the lines, how they keep bringing us into the story. And then we see over here a cave portal that'll go into the body of water for, loading and unloading. We've obviously got this tribal decoration here to put in the personality of the Na'vi. It's pretty cool. Still very abstract. I still don't think they have it quite figured out. I mean, it gets interesting. Is there... Copy that. Little food for thought. Could there be... Man, I wish I was doing this on my iPad. Give me a second here. see if I can do this real quick. I'm just going over to Google and just see if I can just find something that could like maybe work. Okay. Okay. All right, this is going to get confusing for a minute. This is going to get confusing for a minute. I'm going to forewarn you. Okay. Whoops. Now, question for you. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be convincing. Now, there's two ways the monorail can work in this area. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Come on. What the hell? Oh, airbrush. I did it in airbrush. Okay. All right. So there's two ways that the monorail can work. Okay. You go through a tunnel like I've just created, this keyhole, right? Like, whoa, shit, Avatar's on the other side of this. And the monorail is actually running right above us. Like the monorail is, let me just fix my brush here. The monorail is just cruising like this, right? It's just going through a show scene, going through a tunnel, and we're just like walking into Avatar through this thing, and it's all back there. And it actually works really, really well with this theory that we had. Let's move this underneath our rock tunnel. So it actually kind of works well within that idea. Right? Like you kind of see all that. That's very confusing. So there's one way to work this where our monorail is literally just going through a tunnel and it's going above us. That would mean that Avatar that would put the wall that I just built. I'm getting juiced up now. So that would mean what I just built for you, that little tunnel. You're going to come over here, right? You're going to come off the street or whatever, and you're going to go through that tunnel about right here. Somewhere in here is the tunnel that I just created for you, which means that all of this in here is Avatar. Now, that's what you want. You want the tunnel that I just made, because if not, let's erase all this little stuff that I made. If not, that means that the monorail is going through here. Somewhere back there, the monorail's cruising behind all this stuff. And why you don't want that is that means that the back end of this is here. So the entry point is over on Hollywoodland. Like basically all those people are standing right here. So yeah, you got enough room for the ride, but how does it flow? So I think that you really want to pull for the idea that we're seeing it. That we're seeing it this way. I think that's the way that you want it to work. You want it to all start on the other side of the because like basically you would go through like a garden transition area, which is like kind of the little weird spot of the back lot right now. Then you would go under the monorail, and then in a beautiful keyhole or a cavern, you would see all this on the other side. I can't believe I just made this. This is so crazy. All right, I'm going to take some comments and then we'll call it a night. I do want to thank all my super chatters this evening for supporting the channel. Your Hollywood lounge is gone, Travel. Silvaco says, I'm going to be honest, I hate the whole forced perspective thing. Oh, it's wild. It's like such a masterful thing they do. I love how it's just basement talk. My grandparents had a basement. Never say that something's not possible, because everybody will point out that it is totally possible. Do I think Avatar will have a themed restaurant? I think it'll have a themed restaurant. And I hope it's like the one that they have out of Animal Kingdom, because the food there is great. Jim's Junk. Mike and Sully are the first two to be shoved through the Vanishing Eye. I think that we will see Monsters, Inc. show back up in the new theme park. That's my theory. Brickey will be signing this art at Wonderground this weekend. Yeah, if you want my horrible live Photoshop image that I did, I'll be here signing it. Yeah, in Animal Kingdom, the highest waterfalls are actually cotton balls that are on a rotating thing that makes it look like water. I'm with you, Greg. I'm not a big Avatar fan, but it's definitely going to be an upgrade to the park, and it's going to add some vibes. It's going to look cool. Yeah, the actual ride vehicles in the back, I showed that, though. I think I'm a little bit late here. People still talking about the monorail and the other concept artwork. Peter Brown gets compliments with his hat. I appreciate that. All right, there we go. I'm all caught up. Feel like I've answered everybody's questions. Do you think the Hyperion Theater is staying? I think it depends. It really depends on how they do the transition. If this is right and everything starts on the other side of the monorail, there's a good chance that the Hyperion stays. If they don't do it that way, then I think the Hyperion's gone. The Disneyland Forward series will keep going for sure. Like I will always be doing the Disneyland Forward series. I'm not stopping that. Slash. Please clear your messages. It's giving me anxiety. I don't know what you're talking about. What are my messages? Oh, 769 text messages? No, I don't have time for that shit. Louis Garcia. I wish you guys knew why that was funny. Oh my God. That's great. Good to see you, bud. We need to meet up and hang soon. Oh, Stu, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you, bud. All right, everybody. I have broke down this concept artwork in a very, very detailed manner for nearly 2 hours. Hopefully, I answered a lot of your questions. I'll be doing standalone videos about all of this, but this just seemed like a really fun time. I hope Phil R. Magic is gone. Burn it down. Don't burn it down, but I hope that it's gone. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got a better understanding. Maybe you're a little bit excited. And hopefully I put a little bit of clarity to some of the vagueness on this when we go through and break it down. And if you're just joining me now, I broke down the main Disneyland Forward concept artwork that predicts a lot of a lot of things that have been predicting are seem to be true there. We looked at the radiator racers or the cars land that's coming to Magic Kingdom. We looked at Coco, and then we looked at this. So hopefully you had a good time. No members only stream tonight because this just took a lot of time and I want to go through it with detail and I didn't want to rush it. And I kind of ignored the chat so people could kind of like really get all the details because I've been following Disneyland Forward more closely than any other YouTube channel. I've been really kind of studying it and going into it. Feel like I've got a good beat on where all this is going. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first person to tell you that I'm wrong. And I'll be the first person to tell you why I got it wrong and how the new solution fixes maybe what I wasn't quite understanding. So if everybody had a really good time, and I will see you back here on the channel tomorrow, maybe. And also I got a new Hey Brickey video coming for you on Saturday that hopefully you'll all enjoy. All right, everybody. Oh, Stu. Thanks, Stu. All right, everybody, have a good night. Thanks to all my super chatters. Thanks to all my Magic Brickey members. Thank you to everybody that shows up. And if you're new here, subscribe. It's nice to see over 400 people here tonight. That's really, really fun. We do this every Thursday night. Always get into something creative. Sometimes we look at old news. Sometimes like tonight, we look at new news. Sometimes we talk about your news. We just get it all going. All right. Love you.